Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Kevin Connors here, and you are at New Look at Cancer, a series that we're going to do. I actually don't know how many sessions this is going to be because I've already have created several dozen of them. So stay tuned. We got a lot to go through in this program. So this is session number 1. I'm going to try to keep these short, keep your attention uh, with me. So session number 1 at a new look at cancer. So why do we need a new look at cancer? Well, a few reasons, maybe a few 100 million reasons. 1 out of 2.5 Americans will get cancer. That is 2010 statistics. You cannot help getting this thrown at you, and you get thrown into this because every single person probably listening to this either has cancer, or that's why you're listening to this, or a loved one has cancer, or even if you're not into the whole cancer scene, you are going to be exposed to people that have cancer. It is just, there's no getting around it. 1 out of 2 men, 1 out of 3 women in America will have cancer in their lifetime. It's kind of crazy because it just wasn't that way. So even back in the 1970s and the 1960s, I think in the 50s it was 1 out of 80 Americans got cancer. It's just been growing. It wasn't even in the top 10 causes of death. It is now the second cause of death behind heart disease. Here's one of my quotes. I am more fully convinced that the alternative model, which is really the integrative model for cancer, is really not optional. It is the medical model that is optional when we really look at how we're going to take care of somebody with cancer. Matter of fact, this is President Nixon's address. This is a very famous picture of him signing in as a bill the war on cancer, and he came out with a presidential address saying that in 10 years that we will have cancer conquered and a cure found for cancer. He put an extra $100 million to launch a huge campaign to cure cancer, to find the cause of cancer. This was in 1971, and at that time 1 in 21 Americans would get cancer. In 1971, how many years ago was that? 50 years ago, 40 years ago. And now it's 1 in 2.5 Americans get cancer. From 1 in 20 to 1 in 2.5, if this was a war on cancer, we are getting slaughtered in this war. And $100 million to launch an intensive campaign to find a cure for cancer, that is a drop in the bucket. What is collected to fund research programs to find a cure for cancer. They are never going to find a cure for cancer. There is too much money in cancer. That's just the way it is. Heart disease, over the course of between 1950 and 2005, the rate of heart disease per 100,000 dropped less than 50%. We are doing a great job with heart disease. Cerebrovascular diseases that are strokes, it dropped huge amount. Flu and influenza, pneumonia, infectious diseases dropped more than a half. And yet cancer hardly made a blip. What is going on with cancer? We are losing the war on cancer. Again, 1971, 1 in 20 Americas. Today, 1 in 2.5. The incidence up 18%. Death rate is up 1.3%. Regardless of what you hear on television, that we are making strides with cancer, we are simply making strides with earlier detection. Do you realize, from a medical standpoint, if you got cancer today, and in 5 years from today you were still alive, though you were in hospice care in your last 2 weeks of life, and you passed today, you would be considered cured of cancer. Even though you might died 5 years and 1 day after the first incidence of the first diagnosis, you are still considered a cancer cure. So this is how they fudge the statistics. There has been literally no significant changes in survival rate over the last 25 years in our treatment of cancer. The serious clinician will come to a conclusion that successful supportive care of somebody diagnosed with cancer will be defined as converting it from an acute terminal illness, meaning that you are going to die from it, to a chronic manageable disorder. And that's what we really want. I think it is a disservice to tell a person that they're cured of cancer. That is a complete disservice, because it is not true. We all have cancer cells growing in our body at all times. And what our purpose is as a clinician is to take that person who's going downhill and losing this battle, the cancer's taking over their body and is going to put them in the grave, to now we can manage it. The body is winning the battle. It's killing those cancer cells, and the person is recovering. But this is a lifelong battle. So it's a lifelong lifestyle change of doing the right things to keep their immune system stimulated, to get rid of the cause, to stimulate the immune system to be able to fight this disorder, so that now they can manage it and they can live a nice long life the way God intended them. That is our goal. It's not to cure anything, it's to help their body overcome the disorder. So what is cancer? We're going to spend a few weeks on this. Cancer is the abnormal growth of different cells. So it's not cells that came from outside of your body, it's your own tissue cells. So if it's cancer in the liver, it is a liver cell that didn't go through apoptosis or normal programmed cell death. It didn't die. Secondly, the defect inside the cell that is caused from a bunch of different possible things that we're going to talk about in this series. The defect in the cell not only stopped the apoptotic process, stopped it from dying when it should die, but it caused a mutation so that the cell is now in a rapid replication state. So normally a liver cell would reproduce about every 12 weeks and the mother cell would die. Now the mother cell is not dying, it's reproducing 12 times a day, and it's reproducing cells that have the same abnormal gene structure. So it's reproducing cells that don't die and are in a rapid replication state. So they don't act like liver cells, so the more tissue that they take up, you have less liver and you die of liver cancer. So understanding those two pathway breakdowns, we can look at some nutraceutical approaches that can help us reverse that can stimulate your immune system to kill the cancer. So here's a normal cell. You end up with an abnormal cell that turns into a cancer that then gets a blood supply and is able to grow and profuse. But it started with a normal cell. The cell stopped doing what a normal cell should do. Two things happened with the cancer cell. Again, it didn't go through normal programmed cell death, and it went into a rapid replication stage. That's what cancer is. Doesn't die, and it's in rapid replication, and then it's replicating cells that do exactly that same thing. Well, there is always a reason why, and if you ask your oncologist, why do I have cancer? You're going to get a blank stare, and usually they'll say it's a genetic thing. Well, we'll clear that up also. But there's a reason why those processes were broken. So cancer develops, a normal cell becomes a cancer cell because of a genetic change that happened, something from the environment. And that's what we'll be talking about through this series. It begins doubling and replicating, and that's what a malignant tumor is. So we'll talk about how it progresses next week as we go. I'm trying to keep these short and keep your attention. If this is all new to you, listen to it again. Otherwise, we'll see you next week.